Bring in the host of Nothing But the Truth podcast, criminal defense attorney Bob Bianchi. Kind of staying on this Idaho thing just briefly, if I can, Bob. I want to go over what the Idaho police were saying. And this is yesterday, and I'll put this on the screen. They said detectives do not currently know if the residents or any occupants were specifically targeted. And then you jump ahead to today, and you have Moscow police saying, we remain consistent in our belief that this was indeed a targeted attack, but have not conduced if the target was the residents or its occupants. And again, the father of one of the victims went on to say this today. Watch.
They keep coming out with statements that create more questions than the answer, and then that creates a pressure.
Extremely frustrating. Bob, your thoughts?
Yeah, Trace, we talked about this earlier on. I mean, when I was giving press conferences, you were very judicious with the information you give out. But certainly it has to be accurate. They are all over the place with this. So as a former homicide prosecutor, I am very concerned about the integrity of the investigation when mistakes like this, the basic mistakes, are being made. Moreover, Trace, if you don't know whether somebody's targeted, which means that there was an individual specifically that was or individuals being targeted, you don't know whether or not to tell the community they're in danger or not. It doesn't seem like they have any idea as to whether or not, if they can't even get to the point where they're targeted or not targeted, how are they giving information to the community with regard to protecting themselves? So I don't like the look and feel of it. It's amateur hour to me.
Yeah, and it's a fair assessment. I want to move on now. Some breaking news coming out of California. Governor Newsom put this panel together on reparations, and they came up with the following here. Quote, the task force has identified 5 areas: housing, discrimination, mass incarceration, unjust property seizures, devaluation of black businesses, and healthcare. The task force in California estimates compensation of around $569 billion with $223,200 per person. Where are they going to get the money, Bob? And that's twice the California's yearly budget.
Yeah, and let's not forget that if we start doing these commissions with regard to, I can tell you in the Italian-American community, the many of them who have been displaced in the same kind of arguments that were made when the discrimination occurred there. I'm not trying to compare them. What I'm trying to say is that how are you going to be able to come up with the money to be able to do everything to try to right wrongs that occurred in the past to anybody? So there is an alternative in this report, which is about housing grants and maybe education and tuition grants, but they're going to have to be reasonable, because at the end of the day, the taxpayers are going to pay for it, which means less services for those very communities that would be getting the money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I did this story on the robbery of an Apple store in Palo Alto on Tucker tonight. I want to show you part of it, Bob, and get your reaction on the final thoughts. The store is crowded with shoppers when 2 people walk in wearing masks. They then start walking between and in front of customers, stealing iPhones, iPads, computers from the display cases. I mean, they are literally ripping them from their security cords. One of the Apple employees hears a robber make an announcement to shoppers threatening physical violence to anyone that tries to stop them. So under California law, that means the crime now includes force or fear, elevating it to felony robbery. And while the heist is underway, the employees are trying to keep customers away from the criminals when somebody says this. Watch.
Yo, should we stop them or what?
So not only do the robbers face zero resistance, the customers just keep shopping, calmly shopping, as if this happens every day. Then again, the sad truth is it does happen every day. And it does happen every day. You don't see this wild video, Bob, but we've become numb to this. Very quickly, your final answer.
You know, the store's in a rock and a hard place situation. They were probably wise to say not to do anything, not to escalate the situation. That's what we tell them in law enforcement. But the fact of the matter is these criminals know that they can walk into places. There's not going to be a significant law enforcement response. In fact, what's probably worse than this, Trace, is law enforcement officers many times are being told, back away yourselves and don't do anything lest you cause a problem. Make no mistake about it, the criminals know.
And you talk about incentivizing robbery. Bob Bianchi, always great to get your insight. Thank you for coming on.
You got it, Trace.
Well, the number of